They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but for Ryan Mitchell, a 34-year-old structural engineer at National Bridge Corp., it came served in a coffee creamer bottle, a crisp autumn morning in Chicago, 2024. Ryan stands in his modern kitchen, staring at the bottle of non-dairy creamer in his hands. His fingers trace the seal he'd punctured so carefully weeks ago. To anyone else, it would look like an ordinary bottle of coffee creamer. But Ryan knows better. He knows it carries a deadly secret, just like his seemingly perfect life carried its own dark revelations. You see, Ryan wasn't born a killer. He was made one, methodically and deliberately, by the very people who should have loved and respected him most. As he watches the sun rise over his suburban home, 4 bedrooms, manicured lawn, white picket fence and all, he remembers how it used to be. The morning kisses, family breakfasts, the sound of his daughter's laughter mixing with his wife's. Now all he hears is silence, broken only by the quiet gurgle of his coffee maker. But to understand how a respected structural engineer, a man who spent his days calculating the precise measurements that kept bridges from collapsing, turned into someone capable of meticulously plotting 2 deaths, we need to go back. Back to when the facade of his perfect life first began to crack. Let me introduce you to our cast of characters, because each one plays a crucial role in this tragedy. Each one added their own weight to the bridge of Ryan's patience until it finally, catastrophically, collapsed. Ryan Mitchell stands 6 feet 2 inches with prematurely graying hair that makes him look distinguished rather than old. His colleagues at National Bridge Corp respect him for his attention to detail and unwavering dedication to safety. A bridge is only as strong as its weakest support, he often says, never realizing how prophetic those words would become in his personal life. Sarah Mitchell, formerly known as Tiffany in our original tale, is 32, though she dresses to look 25. Once a junior in college studying pre-law when she met Ryan, she's now transformed herself into the perfect executive assistant. Her designer wardrobe and meticulously maintained appearance mask the ambition that would ultimately destroy her family. She's the type of woman who can make "I still love you" sound like a threat rather than a promise. Their daughter, Emma Mitchell, is 7, a precocious first grader with her mother's golden hair and her father's analytical mind. She's the innocent in this story, the one person whose future hangs in the balance of every decision made. Her artwork still decorates the fridge, stick figures of a happy family that no longer exists. Marcus Sterling, 45, cuts an imposing figure as the senior partner at Sterling and Associates law firm. His tailored suits cost more than most people's monthly mortgage payments, and his influence in Chicago's legal circles runs deeper than Lake Michigan. He's the type of man who believes everything, and everyone, has a price. Lauren Sterling, 43, rounds out our main cast. Marcus's wife owns the city's most prestigious art gallery and has perfected the art of looking the other way. Her carefully maintained public image would soon become yet another casualty in this tale of revenge. Each of these characters thought they were writing their own story. None of them realized they were actually players in a tragedy of their own making, with Ryan Mitchell as the unexpected author of their fate. Let me take you back to where it all began. A crowded university library during finals week 2011. The air thick with stress and the smell of coffee when Ryan Mitchell first laid eyes on Sarah Anderson. He was hunched over complex engineering calculations. She was juggling a tower of law books that seemed determined to escape her grasp. Their eyes met over a fallen textbook, and like every great love story that ends in tragedy, it started with a smile. Their courtship was a whirlwind. Within months, they were inseparable. Sarah's ambition complemented Ryan's stability perfectly, or so it seemed. They married a month after her graduation, a beautiful ceremony that their friends would talk about for years. Ryan's career at National Bridge Corp took off immediately. He had an uncanny ability to spot structural weaknesses that others missed. Oh, the irony of that talent. When Emma arrived 2 years later, Sarah embraced motherhood with the same intensity she'd shown in college. She quit her job at the law firm, declaring that nothing was more important than giving their daughter the perfect start in life. For 5 years, they lived the American dream. Their home echoed with laughter, bedtime stories, and the kind of happiness that makes you wonder if it can last. Looking back, Ryan would later say, it was too perfect, like a bridge that looks solid but has hairline cracks in its foundation. You don't see the danger until it's too late. The changes began when Emma started kindergarten. Sarah, declaring she was ready to restart her career, took a position as a legal assistant at Sterling and Associates. It seemed innocent enough, a prestigious firm, flexible hours, good benefits, perfect for a mother balancing career and family. But perfection, as Ryan was learning, often masks deeper problems. First came the subtle changes in Sarah's appearance. The practical mom wardrobe gave way to designer suits. Comfortable shoes were replaced by Christian Louboutins. Her honey blonde hair, once naturally beautiful, became an expensive weekly maintenance routine. Ryan noticed, but didn't want to seem controlling. After all, wasn't this what supportive husbands did? Encourage their wives' independence? Then came the late nights. "Working with the senior partner?" she'd say, her voice distant as she texted on her perpetually locked phone. Their intimate life dwindled from passionate to occasional to non-existent. When Ryan tried to discuss it, Sarah had an arsenal of ready excuses: stress, career opportunities, building their financial future. The Christmas party at Sterling and Associates was when the facade began to crack visibly. Ryan watched as Marcus Sterling, the firm's most powerful partner, barely acknowledged his existence while keeping Sarah close all evening. The inside jokes, the lingering touches, the way Sarah's laugh changed around him, it was all there, if you knew where to look. Still, Ryan told himself he was imagining things, until the day he couldn't pretend anymore. It happened on a Friday in late spring. Emma was spending the weekend with Ryan's parents, a regular arrangement that had become more frequent as Sarah's work commitments increased. Ryan had planned a romantic dinner, hoping to reconnect with his wife. Instead, he came home to find Sarah dressed in a black cocktail dress that cost more than his first car. "We need to talk," she said, that unfamiliar smirk playing on her expertly painted lips. "Things are going to change around here." The words that followed destroyed Ryan's world piece by piece. Sarah wasn't just having an affair with Marcus Sterling. She was announcing it, flaunting it, and worse, she expected Ryan to accept it. "This is how it's going to be," she declared, as casual as if discussing dinner plans. "Marcus and I will continue our relationship. You'll remain my husband. Emma keeps her perfect family image. Everyone wins." When Ryan refused, Marcus Sterling himself appeared at their door, complete with a burly driver who looked more like a professional enforcer. The threats were delivered with the precision of a legal document. If Ryan didn't comply, he'd lose everything: custody of Emma, his professional license, his freedom. "One phone call," Marcus said, lounging in Ryan's kitchen like he owned it, "and you'll be facing charges that will destroy you. Child molestation, domestic abuse. We have judges who owe us favors. By the time we're done, you'll be lucky if you ever see Emma again." Standing in his own kitchen, watching his wife smile adoringly at another man while his world collapsed, Ryan learned just how powerless a person could be against money and influence. But he also learned something else, something that would prove fatal for both Sarah and Marcus. He learned that even the most powerful people can't recognize a truly dangerous enemy until it's too late. When you spend your career calculating how much pressure a structure can take before it breaks, you learn something about precision. Ryan Mitchell knew that emotion couldn't drive his next moves. It had to be cold, calculated engineering. The library became his sanctuary. Not his local branch, but ones in neighboring towns, where he could use public computers without leaving a trace. Hours turned into days as he researched his options. Know your enemy's weaknesses, he'd learned in engineering school. Only now, he wasn't looking for structural flaws in bridges. He was looking for ways to make two deaths look natural. His first stop was a divorce attorney, meeting in a coffee shop far from the city. The lawyer's words confirmed his fears. Marcus Sterling's influence ran too deep. Any legal battle would end with Ryan losing everything: his daughter, his freedom, his future. The system was rigged against him. But Ryan's research had revealed something interesting. Certain fish toxins, when administered correctly, could mimic natural causes. Tetrodotoxin from pufferfish, dimethylmercury, both could build up in the system gradually. Both were associated with high-end sushi, which Sarah and Marcus enjoyed weekly at their business dinners. The Oriental supply store was 3 hours away, in a part of town where questions weren't asked. The old man behind the counter didn't even blink when Ryan made his request. 2 vials, 2 syringes, $1,500 in cash. Be careful, the old man had warned. Small amounts over time will do the trick. Too much at once, they'll know. Ryan's engineering mind took over, calculating dosages, planning delivery methods. Sarah's special coffee creamer, the one she kept at home and only shared with Marcus, would be perfect. Non-dairy, no refrigeration needed, and the paper seal under the cap could be penetrated with minimal evidence. The kitchen counter became Ryan's laboratory. 11 bottles of creamer lined up like soldiers, each one waiting its turn. His hands trembled with the first injection, pushing the tiny needle through the seal. But by the 11th bottle, his movements were as precise as his bridge calculations. Weeks passed. Sarah continued her affair, taking fresh bottles of creamer to work, sharing them exclusively with Marcus. Ryan watched, waited, calculated. The symptoms started gradually, just as the old man had promised. First, it was Sarah flexing her fingers during dinner, complaining of numbness. Like pins and needles, she'd say, shaking out her hands. Then came Marcus's stroke, the left side of his face drooping, his organs beginning to shut down one by one. The hospital scenes played out like a carefully orchestrated drama. Sarah, rushing to Marcus's bedside, not realizing she was following the same path. Ryan, playing the concerned husband, watching his wife kiss her dying lover while the toxins coursed through both their bodies. "Please, Ryan," Sarah had begged. "I need to see him." Even then, she didn't know that every cup of coffee she'd shared with Marcus had been another step toward their end. The most chilling moment came when Ryan visited Marcus alone in his hospital room. The powerful lawyer, now paralyzed and unable to speak, could only watch as Ryan leaned close and whispered, "I told you I wouldn't be a good boy." The machine started beeping frantically as Ryan walked out, calm and collected. Marcus died on a Monday. Sarah, her health deteriorating rapidly, followed within a week. The doctors found high levels of mercury and fish toxins in their systems. A tragic case of food poisoning from contaminated sushi, they concluded. Who would suspect anything else? 2 people who frequently dined together, sharing expensive sushi meals, succumbing to the same condition. Death has a way of revealing truths, and in the wake of Marcus and Sarah's passing, secrets began to surface like bodies in a flood. The hospital halls became a stage for the final act of this tragedy, with Ryan playing his part to perfection. The doctors were baffled but convinced. High levels of mercury and fish toxins in both victims' systems pointed to contaminated sushi as the culprit. Who would question it? After all, everyone knew about their weekly sushi meetings. Breaking the news to Emma was the hardest part. How do you tell a 7-year-old that her mother is never coming home? Ryan's tears, as he held his daughter, were genuine. Not for Sarah, but for the innocence Emma would lose. "Mommy got very sick, sweetheart," he'd said, his voice cracking. Sometimes doctors can't make people better. The funeral arrangements became another battlefield. Sarah's religious parents insisted on a traditional burial, but Ryan stood firm. Cremation was the only option. It's what she would have wanted, he lied, knowing that fire would erase any lingering evidence the doctors might have missed. He watched the flames consume her body, taking his secrets with them. But Ryan wasn't finished. Like a skilled chess player, he had one more move to make. Armed with recordings he'd secretly made during his ordeal, he paid a visit to Lauren Sterling, Marcus's widow. The conversation in her palatial home was brief but devastating. "You knew," Ryan had said, his voice calm. "You knew what your husband was doing to my family, and you did nothing." Lauren's composed facade cracked. "What do you want, Mr. Mitchell?" What Ryan wanted was justice, served cold and calculated. The meeting with Sterling and Associates partners was a masterpiece of timing. They thought they were discussing Sarah's life insurance. Instead, they found themselves facing exposure of their firm's darkest secrets. The recording of Marcus and Larry Masters discussing their plans to destroy Ryan proved invaluable. The senior partners' faces drained of color as they heard their colleagues plotting to use corrupt judges and prosecutors to frame an innocent man. $5 million. That was the price of silence. The firm paid, not just to protect their reputation, but because they knew Ryan had engineered the perfect revenge. Masters was expelled from the firm, his reputation in tatters, while Ryan walked away with enough money to secure Emma's future. Today, Ryan and Emma live in a different suburb, in a house that holds no memories of Sarah. The $5 million sits in carefully managed trust funds and investments, ensuring Emma will never want for anything. The perfect murder remains perfect. No suspicions, no investigations, just a tragic case of food poisoning that claimed 2 lives. Sometimes late at night, Ryan stands in his new kitchen, remembering how it all played out. He's not proud of what he did, but he doesn't regret protecting his daughter from the chaos Marcus and Sarah had planned to bring into their lives. Emma is thriving now. Her therapist says she's processing her mother's death remarkably well. She still asks questions sometimes, but they're becoming less frequent. Last week, she asked if they could get sushi for dinner. Ryan politely suggested pizza instead. The bridges Ryan designs are stronger than ever. His colleagues note that he's even more meticulous now about testing for weaknesses, about ensuring every support can bear its load. They don't know that he applies these same principles to his personal life, testing, measuring, calculating the breaking points of human nature. And there you have it, my friends, the story of how a perfect life ended in perfect revenge. Before you judge Ryan too harshly, ask yourself, what would you do if someone threatened everything you held dear? What lines would you cross to protect your child? If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support means everything to this channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have done anything differently? And if you're new here, join our community by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss our next story.